Elise Montgomery loved him for a year, not knowing the broken man in the wheelchair was actually Adrian Blackwood, the most dangerous man in the city. Elise Montgomery loved him for a year, without knowing who he really was. The sky over the outskirts of New York ruptured. Rain didn't fall, it attacked. It hammered against the rusted roof of a dying bus stop, each drop loud enough to drown out thought. A single streetlight flickered above, casting a sickly yellow glow over a night that felt abandoned by the world itself. The wind cut through everything, through fabric, through skin, through whatever strength Elise Montgomery had left. She stood beneath the leaking shelter, clutching a waterlogged portfolio to her chest. Her mascara had bled into faint shadows beneath her eyes. Mud clung to the edges of her trousers. She looked like someone who spent her life holding others together, but was quietly falling apart herself. Across from her sat a man in a worn wheelchair. Adrian Blake. His clothes were soaked, stained, forgotten by the world. A small notebook rested in his lap, a cheap pen tucked into the fold like it was the only voice he allowed himself to have. He didn't speak. He didn't move. He simply existed, like a ghost no one noticed anymore. Elise didn't hesitate. She didn't stare. She didn't pity him. She walked over and sat beside him on the cold wooden bench. Silence stretched between them. Heavy, honest. Then she noticed his lips, slightly blue from the cold. And without thinking, she slowly unwound the only warmth she had left. A deep red scarf. She placed it gently around his neck, tucking it in like she was protecting something fragile. Adrian froze. His eyes widened. Not with gratitude, but with something deeper, something almost unfamiliar. Elise gave a faint, tired smile. "Don't look at me like that," she whispered. "Tonight, I think I'm just as broken as you are." And in that moment, neither of them knew that this quiet act of kindness was the beginning of a lie that would destroy everything. A week passed. The storm was gone, but something from that night remained. Elise Montgomery sat alone on a worn park bench, an open sign language book resting on her lap. Her fingers moved slowly, awkwardly, trying to form shapes that refused to cooperate. Frustration tightened her chest. She exhaled sharply. Then she looked up and froze. Across the park, beneath a quiet stretch of trees, sat Adrian Blake. The same wheelchair, the same silence. But his hands, they were different now. Alive. They moved with fluid precision, shaping words in the air like he was speaking to something only he could see. It wasn't random. It was controlled, elegant, intentional. Elise stood immediately, clutching her book. "You're from the bus stop, right?" she said, stepping closer. Her eyes lit up with recognition and something warmer. "The scarf, you kept it." Adrian stilled. For a brief second, hesitation crossed his face. Then slowly, he lifted his hands again and signed. Elise's breath caught. "You're actually using this?" she said, almost laughing in disbelief. "I've been struggling with this book for days. I work with kids who need it, but I'm terrible at it." She hesitated, then smiled. "Will you teach me?" Silence. A long pause. Then Adrian reached for his phone, typed something, and turned the screen toward her. A number. That night, her phone lit up. Lesson 1, the message read. And just like that, what started as a moment became a routine, and what felt like coincidence began turning into something neither of them could stop. The nights became a pattern. Calls. Silence. Hands moving in soft, deliberate rhythms across a glowing screen. Elise Montgomery began to depend on them. Not on words. Adrian Blake rarely used any, but on the way he listened. Fully. Without interruption. Without judgment. It was a kind of presence she had never known. And slowly, it became the safest part of her day. Weeks passed, then months. And somewhere inside that quiet routine, something began to shift. It started small, almost invisible. One evening, as Adrian signed a phrase, Elise leaned closer to her screen. Her brows knit together slightly. "Your hands," she signed slowly, studying them. "They're different." Adrian paused. "You don't have the hands of someone living on the streets," she added, softer now. "No scars, no cales. They are perfect, For a fraction of a second, something cracked. His hands dropped out of frame. A delay. Then a quick reply appeared on her screen. Casual. Dismissive. An excuse about gloves. About the cold. But his eyes, they didn't match the message. And Elise felt it. A flicker. A question she couldn't fully form yet. She pushed it away, because everything else felt real. But the next crack came harder. And this time, it wouldn't be so easy to ignore. By the time winter settled in, Elise Montgomery trusted him. Maybe more than she should have. Snow dusted the courtyard as she pushed Adrian Blake's wheelchair across the quiet path, her breath visible in the cold air. There was a softness to the moment, a rare kind of peace. Trust me, she signed, stepping onto the footrests. Before he could react, she wrapped her arms lightly around his neck and shifted her weight. The chair began to spin, slow at first, then faster. For a moment, they laughed without sound. Then, the front wheel struck something hidden beneath the snow. The chair lurched forward violently. Everything happened in a split second. Adrian moved, not slowly, not weakly, explosively. His arms shot out with terrifying precision, locking around her waist with a strength that didn't belong to a broken man. His grip tightened, controlled, powerful. He pulled hard, stabilizing the entire chair before it could crash. Elise gasped, pressed against him, her heart racing. Too fast, too strong. She looked down at his hands, gripping her, then up at his face. Adrian, she whispered, confusion creeping in. Why are you so strong? For a brief second, his eyes changed. Sharp, alert, dangerous. Then it was gone. His hands loosened. His shoulders dropped. The weakness returned like a mask snapping back into place. Elise stepped back slowly, trying to ignore the truth forming in her mind. But this time, the doubt stayed. By the time a year passed, Elise Montgomery had already chosen him. She turned down stability, ignored logic, walked away from everything that made sense. Because with Adrian Blake, she never felt alone. But the world around them didn't stay quiet. One afternoon, the city roared back to life. Traffic surged through a chaotic intersection. Horns blared. Engines growled. People rushed past without looking. Elise pushed Adrian's wheelchair along the edge of the crosswalk, her grip steady despite the noise. Then, she stopped. In the middle of the street stood an elderly woman, disoriented, frozen, surrounded by moving cars that barely slowed for her. Elise waited, but she didn't. She locked the wheels of Adrian's chair in place, then ran, straight into traffic. Cars screeched. Drivers shouted. But Elise dropped to her knees in the middle of the road, right in front of the trembling woman. She didn't pull her, didn't force her. She met her, eye level, hand steady, voice calm. You're safe, she said softly. Look at me. Breathe. The chaos didn't matter. The danger didn't matter. Nothing mattered except the fear in that woman's eyes. Back on the sidewalk, Adrian didn't move. He just watched. And something inside him, something cold, calculated, controlled, began to break. Because for the first time, he realized Elise wasn't kind for show. She was kind, even when it cost her everything. That night, something shifted. Not outside. Inside. Elise Montgomery moved quietly through her small apartment, the soft glow of the kitchen light spilling into the dim living room. The scent of simmering food filled the air, warm, ordinary. But Adrian Blake wasn't. He sat near the window, too close. His body was rigid, eyes fixed through a narrow gap in the curtains like he was watching for something or someone. His fingers gripped the edge of his phone tighter than usual. Elise, he typed quickly, holding up the screen. Can you close the curtains? The light, it's bothering me. She frowned. You've never cared about that before. Her eyes drifted past him to the street, and then she saw it. A sleek black SUV, parked just far enough to feel wrong. Her chest tightened. Adrian, is that car following you? He didn't answer, didn't look at her, just stared, waiting. An hour later, the tension faded, or at least it pretended to. Adrian had fallen asleep on the couch. Elise stepped into the living room, holding 2 cups of tea, then stopped. Something small glinted on the floor beside him. She bent down, picked it up, a tiny earpiece. Advanced, expensive, and as her fingers brushed it, a voice crackled through. Cold. Precise. Sir, the board has located your position. The merger is almost complete. We need your authorization immediately. Elise froze. Her blood ran cold. Behind her, Adrian's eyes snapped open, and in that instant, everything began to unravel. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button. Subscribe so you never miss a story, and drop a comment telling us where in the world you're listening.